أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين لا سيما خاتمهم وأفضلهم محمد مصطفى صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وعلى أهل بيت الطهارة لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين الحجة ابن الحسن أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك عليك منا جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله الآخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وقوله الحق لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن التقويم ثم رددناه أسفل السافلين. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. My elders, my dearest brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In keeping with our pattern for each night, tonight I wish to dedicate my lecture to honor the artists in our community and the arts. You see, the arts is something that is both underappreciated and underdeveloped in our community. And it makes me very sad. From the painters, to poets, to people who draw, to musicians, and all in between. The arts are an integral part of any society. Similarly, like politics, like education, and all these things, the arts are equally, and I would argue, if not more important. Because the arts are that manifestation of the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that creativity. And human expression through the arts is Allah's expression. And when we undervalue this, we are suppressing a very, very important part of our human expression. And when we suppress a part of our human expression, then we are not whole and we are not complete. The art, many times, you might find a doctor in a society, might find themselves in a situation where they might face a dilemma, or they might face an issue at work. Sometimes they'll go in the car, they might turn on something, and that art might calm them down and give them new perspective. When we walk around in nature, nature is also, it's Allah's art, nature is Allah's canvas. So we go into nature. Many times it'll be a poem we read. Many times it'll be a piece of art. Every piece of artwork, again, I will say it again, every piece of art is a form of human expression, and that human expression is Allah's own expression, manifestation from His beauty. So today I encourage my community to develop your arts, to encourage our kids, to those who are in the arts, to continue to encourage them. There is a lot of creative talent in the community. I see it. But unfortunately, because our mindset is a certain way, we don't invest in the arts. We don't encourage the arts. In our community, it's the classic, beta, you have to earn a paycheck, right? Well, I would encourage us as a community to start paying that paycheck and encourage the creativity, because it is that important. So I salute all the artists in our community all over the world. Allah bless you. Allah increase your creativity, and may Allah continue to give you tawfiq to continue to inspire the hearts with Allah's beauty. Please recite a salawat. We are now at our 7th evening together. And, Aziz Uncle spoke to you about, thanking me, but really it should be me thanking you. Again, I'll say this over and over again. It is not lost on me the privilege to be able to sit with you, to have a conversation with you, to discuss with you, and to share a part of my journey and the perspectives that have come about from my journey. So I appreciate you all, each and every one. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your kindness. I appreciate the wonderful and very, very generous feedback that each of you have provided to me. It really, really touches me very deeply. And so may Allah bless you. Please recite a salawat. We began our first night by exploring the fitrah and the concept of Insan al-Kamil. That fitrah, that thing that Allah, that beautiful mercy Allah put into us, which every single human being has. We looked at it as a container containing the 7 virtues that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in each and every one of us. The ones He identifies explicitly that He loves in the Quran. So we went through taqwa, we went through sabr, we went through tawakkul. I always do this. So we started with taqwa, we went to sabr, we did tawakkul, we did qist, right? And then we moved on, and then we branched out a little bit. Because once we had that foundation of taking things inside, we thought, let's take a peek outside and see what that looks like. But we also looked at it through the lens of ourselves as well too. Tonight we move on to the next one of the 7 virtues, which is ihsan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about ihsan says in the Quran, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Those who spend in the way of Allah in ease and adversity, and restrain their anger, and excuse the faults of people, and Allah loves the virtuous, the muhsineen. Okay? So tonight we explore ihsan. Maybe we've been taught that excellence or ihsan means being perfect, never struggling, always having our spiritual lives completely together. Maybe we think ihsan means performing flawlessly for Allah and for each other. But my beloved souls, what if everything we've been told about spiritual excellence has been missing the most beautiful part? How many of us have exhausted ourselves trying to be the perfect Muslim, never missing prayers, always smiling at the mosque, giving the right answers in religious discussions, presenting an image of what we think, what our perceived religiosity should be? How many times have we done that? And how many of us have felt like frauds because our private struggles do not match our public image, public spiritual image and our public image? How many have avoided getting too close to each other for the fear that they might find out what one is really all about? But here is what will set those exhausted hearts free. Real ihsan is not about being perfect. It's about being beautifully and consciously present with Allah in every moment of our precious, messy, struggling, mistake-filled, and hopeful lives. It's not about eliminating our struggles. It's about bringing those struggles into a loving awareness of Allah's presence, that even our difficulties then become an act of worship. Again, that even our difficulties become an act of worship. We go back to the Quran, and we go back to the Quran to explore what the purpose of our creation is. What does the verse say? I had not created humans and jinns except to worship me. Now that worship is not confined only to ritual worship. Worship is anything that we do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that we consciously do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be counted as worship. So even in our struggles, if we find ourselves struggling, if we find ourselves having difficulties, if we take that back to God and include God, or make God present in those difficulties, that also then becomes a form of worship. Please recite a salawat. Tonight, we're going to discover that the most beautiful excellence or ihsan comes not from trying harder, but from loving more consciously. We'll witness a moment from Karbala where arrows are flying, and in that moment, the souls that were there chose to pray anyway, not because they were perfect, but because they were so aware of Allah's presence and their consciousness was brought in so much into Allah's presence that it could not stop them from having a conversation with their beloved in the chaos. Inshallah, by the end of this night, we will try that our hearts try to have a longing to live beautifully for Allah. For beautifully loving Allah isn't pressure. It's loving, it's that calling love that takes us back to our home, to who we truly are. Please recite a salawat. The noble messenger of God, that most beautiful, that most complete, that most loving, that most kind, that most generous, that most conscious human being, tells us about Ihsan. He says, Ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you cannot see Him, know that He sees you. Now, it's interesting. I give my example again. I don't want to project on anybody. But anytime growing up, when I was told that Allah sees you, it was always in the negative way. In the sense that, be careful, don't do that, Allah's watching you. Or don't do that, Allah's watching you. Right? That's not what this is. This is that Allah is watching you and Allah is present with you in every state you may find yourself in. Whether you're struggling, whether you're making mistakes, whether you're doing this, whether you're doing that, He is present with you. Not present with you to throw His harsh judgment on you, on your mistakes, but a loving presence. In some ways you can call it a loving observer. Now, we also have to qualify that as Allah is the loving observer in our life, love also encompasses accountability. So it's not a situation where I'm telling you, do what you want and Allah's the loving observer. No, there is accountability, of course, because love is not complete without accountability. But the point is that He's present in everything that we do. In our good times, in our bad times, in our triumphs, in our mistakes, He's always present with us. Ihsan is like being so aware of Allah's loving presence that every moment becomes a conversation with Him. Every moment. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing everything consciously. Knowing that the one who loves us most is right there, present with us. Not harshly judging our mistakes, but delighted at the sincerity of our hearts. So even when that sincerity is there, even when we do make mistakes, He's aware of that sincerity of our hearts, the sincerity behind which we try to do things. Please recite salawat. When Allah declares His love for the muhsineen, yani the people of Ihsan, those who practice Ihsan, He's not loving our perfection, as I said. He's loving the moment we remember He's there with us. When we choose to be present rather than just going through the motions. When we offer Him our sincere hearts, even if our actions aren't flawless. I'll tell you by way of example, right? This issue of trying to be perfect in front of Allah, right? Many times we find ourselves in a situation where we're tired and getting up to pray might be difficult. Whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the evening, to say our prayers, we might find difficulty. What Allah is saying to us in those moments is, you just come. Just come and make yourself present. I'm not expecting you to have full presence of heart and that full tawajjuh and that full, this thing. Just come. I'm just inviting you to just come and be with me. Once you're with me, we'll take care of the rest. So it's that ability to be present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We come to our sajadas, not as perfect. We're tired, we're exhausted. All He's saying to us from His mercy, just come. Just come to the prayer mat. That's all I'm asking. Just be present. That's all. Every time we bring that consciousness to what we're doing, we join the ranks of those who Allah loves. There's a wounded understanding of excellence that has broken many of our beautiful hearts. The belief that to please Allah, we must never struggle, never doubt, never feel overwhelmed, never feel mistakes. And this spiritual perfectionism, I call it, it whispers cruel lies to us. Number one, if I was really spiritual, I wouldn't feel anxious. Good Muslims don't struggle with difficult emotions. Real excellence means never failing at anything, especially as it pertains to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah only loves you when you're performing perfectly. So in the social media age, this pressure has intensified. We see Instagram-worthy spiritual posts, or any post for that matter, creating curated images that never show our humanity or our real struggles. Community leaders who seem to have transcended all human concerns. I repeat this one. Community leaders who seem to have transcended all human concerns. Constant comparison with others who appear more religiously practicing than us. Shame about needing therapy or medication for mental health. Fear of admitting doubts or questions about faith. Why this crushes our souls? We confuse ihsan with impossible perfection. The most tender parts of our hearts begin to die. How? Number one, we become afraid to be real because real feelings seem unspiritual. We hide our struggles when Allah wants to walk with us through them. We lose the joy of sincere effort because nothing feels good enough. We become judgmental of others because we're so harsh with ourselves. If you remember, when we were talking about in the lecture of Sabr, when we suppress our own emotions and we conflate patience with numbness, we also project out our impatience with others because we're not patient with ourselves, right? The same thing with judge. We become harsh with ourselves, and if we judge ourselves harshly, then naturally that's going to manifest and we're going to judge others harshly. We miss the gift of growth because mistakes feel like spiritual failure. False excellence creates endless anxiety. Why? Because number one, we're worried about whether we're doing things right. We can't rest because it feels lazy to rest. We can't enjoy simple pleasures because they seem unspiritual. We exhaust ourselves trying to control our image instead of allowing ourselves to be real, which is the fertile ground for our hearts to grow. True ihsan is like learning to dance with Allah. He inspires us by causing us to move, and He brings the music. Right? We bring our sincere hearts. He brings the grace that makes it beautiful. It's not about eliminating our struggles, but about bringing those struggles into a conscious relationship with the one who loves us exactly as we are, whilst calling towards who we are becoming. Please recite a salawat. Please recite a salawat. Okay. So, to me, the way I understand ihsan, looking at it through my training and looking at it through my psychotherapeutic lens, it's about presence. It all comes down to presence. It's about being present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, consciously being present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in whatever way we find ourselves. That presence then allows the space for us to be aware of Allah's presence in our lives, which then moves us towards transcendence. So let me share with you a story about this presence. Now, bear in mind, the case study I'm about to share is about a group of individuals who had achieved the highest level of presence. They also went through their process in life and also had their journey. But this is a day of the culmination of their highest level of presence of consciousness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine, the day of Ashura is the day of Ashura. The sun is beating down mercilessly. The smell of blood and sand is everywhere. The battle is hot. It becomes midday. Now, in this situation, in our modern world, we might think, you know what, this is a time to suspend non-essential spiritual activities. But watch what happens. In the midst of the chaos, a companion by the name of Abu Thamama approached his beloved Imam. And what does he say? He says, Ya Aba Abdullah, my life is for you. I see that the enemy is closing in. By Allah, I will not let you be killed while I am alive. But I wish to meet my Lord having prayed salah, because the time is now due. What is the beauty of the moment? Here was a man facing certain death, but his deepest concern wasn't avoiding the arrows. It was making sure he didn't miss his conversation with his beloved. Imam al-Hussein looks up at the sky, his face showing the strain of the battle, his soul anchored in divine consciousness. He replied with words that should heal our hearts. He says, you have remembered prayer. May Allah make you amongst those who are steadfast in remembering Him. Yes, it is time. Even in the ultimate crisis, the Imam's heart leaped with joy to see someone choosing Allah's presence over their own safety. This is what Ihsan does. It makes the divine relationship so real that nothing else can compete with it. The Imam calls out to the enemies. Now imagine this. The Imam calls out to the enemies. And he says to them, he requests the time for prayer, as it is the time of prayer. Not only does the enemy reject his request to pray, but they attack him even more. And this is where we see, again, real ihsan in motion. The Imam didn't say, okay, well, we tried, Allah will understand, and we'll pray later. Instead, he demonstrates that Allah's rights don't get suspended because humans choose to be cruel. Now I want to digress for a moment. He demonstrates that Allah's rights don't get suspended because humans choose cruelty. We look around our centers today, right? There are many people who are responsible for bringing programs like this together. Many of them you see, many of them you don't see, right? Whether it's parking volunteers, whether it's people looking after the catering, this, that, cleaning up. Many people serve. My message to my youngsters especially, because I grew up in this community, and many times, and there are others here as well too, I can even name you them who have served, right? One of the biggest difficulties that we face growing up is exactly this human cruelty. You want to serve, you're blocked at every juncture. You want to serve, you're told you can't do it. You want to do this, you don't want to do it. When we allow ourselves to be present with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we really choose Allah over human cruelty, it gives us an energy. It gives us a consciousness to move forward and to continue to serve. So I say to all of, and look, people behaving cruelly while you want to serve Allah is a fact of life. It's not something that's going anywhere. Even if we as a community embark on a healing journey and continue that healing journey, inevitably we're going to face these things. So my humble request to everybody and encouragement is, if you want to serve for the sake of God, continue serving for the sake of God. Bring that consciousness of Allah and that intentionality of wanting to serve God, even when you find it difficult. Because you will find it difficult at times. Please recite the salawat. The Imam gathers his companions, the remaining who are left of his companions, and he prays the Salatul Khawf, it's called, the prayer of fear. As the Imam begins to recite the prayer, in front of him, there is a man blocking him from taking the arrows, right? One companion in particular, Sa'id bin Abdullah al-Hanafi, positions himself directly in front of the Imam. As the prayer continues, arrow after arrow struck his body. His shield took hit after hit. His armor was pierced, but he didn't move a single step. He absorbed every arrow meant for the Imam into himself. When the prayer finally concludes, Sa'id collapsed to the ground, his body filled with wounds. In his final breaths, he turns to the Imam with eyes full of light and says, O son of Messenger of Allah, have I fulfilled my covenant? The Imam, his heart breaking, with love and gratitude, replies, yes, you are before me in paradise. What does this sacred moment teach us? Number one, excellence includes rather than excludes our humanity. See how their prayer wasn't separate from the battle? It was right in the middle of it. In life, this is how it is. Many times when we want to do good, It is in the middle of chaos. That should not prevent us from at least being present to that. Real ihsan doesn't require perfect conditions. Many times we say, you know what, I'm going to do this when the conditions are right. I'm going to wait for this to be in place. I'm going to wait until this. No. If you have a desire to do good, do it in the moment. Live in the here and now. This is something that's very important. The concept of the here and now. We learn about this. Many times when we want to do good, we're either influenced by the past, we're either influenced by the toxic sort of interventions of the past that make us stuck, or we're influenced by fear of the future. Live in the here and now. If you feel like doing good for God, live in the present moment. Do it in the present moment. Every present moment that we have in our life is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we act and live in the moment, then our life will become a collection of goodness in the here and now, perpetuating over and over again. I'll liken it to an example, a different example, which is when companions of the Prophet come to him and they were having a discussion and they were talking about the minor sins, right? So tell us about the minor sins, not the major sins, the minor sins. Prophet tells his companions that the minor sins are like twigs, right? They're like twigs. You do them without noticing. So these little twigs, you do them, and after a time, when the twigs pile up, they become a big pile, and one spark will set them on fire. The same is true for the moments of our here and now. If we live in the here and now, and if we practice collecting our here and now going forward, then over time, without us even realizing, that too will become a pile of goodness in the future. Please recite a salawat. Number 2, collaborative beauty. Saeed's excellence wasn't in praying himself. It was in making the Imam's prayer possible. Sometimes our ihsan is in doing the action, and sometimes it is in creating the space for others' actions. Both are equally important in the eyes of Allah. Those volunteers that I was talking to you about, those volunteers, many volunteers would like to participate in the azaa of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Many volunteers would like to participate in the salah, for example. But their ihsan is in what? Is in facilitating and creating the space for others to do it. That is no less than the people who are participating in the good act. Number 4, present moment consciousness. Notice they weren't worried about whether they would survive to pray. Again, here and now. They weren't worried about whether they would survive or pray. Here and now, right? Real ihsan is completely present to the moment. This opportunity, this chance of consciousness for Allah, right in the here and now. Tomorrow's prayers belong to tomorrow. This prayer belongs to this sacred moment. Number 4, excellence independent of circumstances. This story destroys the lie that we need perfect circumstances to live excellently. Their ihsan shone brightest when everything around them was at its worst. True excellence doesn't depend on external conditions, but on internal consciousness. That consciousness is the perfect condition. That presence of Allah in heart is the perfect condition, not what's going on the outside. Number 5, love makes everything sacred. This most beautiful truth. They prayed with arrows falling around them, not because they were trying to impress anybody, but because their love for Allah was so real that nothing could interrupt their conversation with Him. When we truly love someone, we want to be with them regardless of the circumstances. We will move heaven and earth to be with those who we love. Please recite a salawat. Some of the contemporary challenges of trying to live with ihsan, right? We live in an age of unprecedented distraction. Unprecedented distraction. Our phones are buzzing every few minutes. Social media feeds are going. News cycles creating constant anxiety amongst all of us. Work demands immediate responses. In this environment, the kind of present moment consciousness that Abu Thamama showed feels almost impossible. Our culture the second thing is the productivity trap. Our culture equates excellence with productivity, efficiency, and measurable outcomes. We're taught to optimize everything, to multitask, to always be doing more, right? But ihsan isn't about doing more things. It's about bringing more consciousness to whatever we are doing. And I want to, again, digress here for a moment. We, in the modern world, are no longer human beings. We have become human doings, right? It's always about doing this, doing that, doing that. Let's go back to the Quran. Look at the language of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at that. And the language of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran reinforces the notion that we are human beings, because look at how He created us. If you look in the Quran, He says, إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونَ. Right? When Allah desires to create something, when Allah desires to bring something into being, what does He say? He says to it, be, and it becomes. Be, and it becomes. Not do, and it does. So even Allah understands that He created us as human beings and not human doings. The authenticity challenge. We've also inherited ideas about spirituality that make ihsan seem performative. Number one, praying because we should rather than because we want to connect. Number two, following religious practices to appear good rather than to use them as methods to grow closer to Allah. Number three, measuring our spiritual worth by external observances rather than internal transformations. But modern challenges also create unique opportunities, because I'm not one of those that say, you throw the baby out with the bathwater. No, we can use some of the tools in modernity to also help us in our spirituality. How? Technology. We can have technology reminding us of our prayer times so that we pray on time. Our busy lives make moments of consciousness even more precious. So even in the lives that we find we're busy, if we intentionally put those moments aside to reflect and pray, they become that much more special, right? Our global connectivity allows us to serve Allah's creation in ways previous generations could not, right? Some practical applications for cultivating that beautiful consciousness. Number one, start where we are. Start exactly where you are today. Don't wait for perfect conditions to begin ihsan. Begin bringing that consciousness whatever you're doing in the moment right now. Whether it's washing dishes, whether it's walking to work, whether it's preparing food, whatever the case may be, ask yourself, how can I do this simple action as if Allah is watching? Not with anxiety, but with love. My teacher, I was speaking to him about how to bring about that God consciousness in my life. Please recite a salawat. I was discussing with him one day. I said, look, we talk about taqwa, we talk about God consciousness, but how is it possible that I can bring Allah, that consciousness into my life? And he gave me a really, really good piece of practical advice that I will share with you. He said to me, from the time you wake up in the morning, as soon as you rise in the morning, before you take your 2 feet and put them on the ground to get out of bed, make a conscious intention. Make a conscious intention. Make an intention that I am getting up out of bed for the purpose of earning a halal rizq, as an example. Qurbatan ilallah. Right? Everything you do after that, bring intentionality and make an intention for the purpose of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you'll find is that even the most mundane tasks during the course of your day, you're bringing that God consciousness and awareness to everything. And it's a very, very simple exercise. You don't even have to say it. You just have to pause inside and make that intention. The trade-off of that, the beautiful sort of trade-off of that is that when you want to commit sin, you'll remind yourself that, wait a minute, I cannot commit a sin, qurbatan ilallah. So it even then prevents you from committing sin. Very simple exercise, just bringing intentionality to the most mundane of tasks as well too. Number 2, transform routine into ritual. Following the example of the prayer made under those circumstances, practice bringing divine consciousness into ordinary moments. Before eating, pause and remember that food is Allah's provision. Before sleeping, take a moment to feel gratitude for the day. These micro moments of awareness accumulate into a life of ihsan, as we said. Number 3, quality over quantity. This is a big one. This is a big one, right? Layal Qadr, I need to recite 50 du'as, and I have to race and get under the finish line before Fajr comes, and I have to eat my suhoor on top of that. That's not what Allah wants from you. That is not what Allah wants from you. He wants quality. We know consciously that in our interpersonal relationships, that quality is king. It's not about quantity. It is about the quality of our relationships. Quality in the relationships, quality of relationships. Meaning we don't necessarily need 50 people. We could have one person. But so long as that quality is there. It's the same thing in our worship. Allah is looking for quality. That one moment, and believe me, that one moment where there's a spark and you connect to Allah is enough. Is enough. Embrace sacred imperfection. Like Sa'id continued to shield the prayer even while he was wounded, practicing offering imperfect efforts with sincere hearts. Meaning what? Go back to the prayer example. You're tired, you're exhausted. You've had a long day. Just go and pray. Let your intention to be pristine, even if your actions are imperfect. Number 5, create sacred pauses. In our busy lives, practice what we might call holy interruptions. Brief moments throughout the day when we stop to remember Allah's presence. This could be during the call to prayer, when we hear a beautiful recitation, or simply when we notice something beautiful in creation. Number 6, serve with consciousness. Serve with consciousness. Remember that ihsan includes how we treat others. Practice bringing the same conscious awareness to our relationships that we bring to our remembrance of Allah. In other words, bring God into your relationships. Bring God into your interactions. Listen with full presence, speak with intentional kindness, and serve others as if we were serving the Creator Himself. Because in a manner of speaking, serving others is to serve Allah. Again, worship, our broad definition of worship. To serve others is part of worship. Please recite a salawat. So from ihsan, inshallah, tomorrow we will move towards Tawbah. Tomorrow's the 8th night of Muharram, so we'll move towards Tawbah. But I just want to comment on one thing, and that is that we might have the impression that the virtues and the order through which they're covering are linear. I'm presenting them as linear, but it's not that way. Sometimes it can be linear, sometimes it can be cyclical, but it's all happening. You remember we talked about processes, parallel processes running at once? These virtues, and you'll notice if you listen, all of these virtues are all tied to one another. There's a lot of overlap between all of them. So it's not that you have to, start with the fitrah and then practice taqwa to sabr, sabr to tawakkul to qist, and then qist to ihsan. No. They're all moving together at once, beautifully in harmony in each and every one of us. And they have that overlapping. Each one of these is the face of a very beautiful diamond that exists in each and every one of us. So again, I repeat, do take the time through readings, listening to lectures, whatever the case may be. Learn more about these virtues because, as I said, they are innately part of us. They are innately part of us and they're always in motion and moving. And the more we become aware, the more enriched our lives will be. As Amir al-Mu'mineen or the Prophet, depending on what you subscribe to, they say what? Man arafa nafsahu faqad arafa rabbuh. The one who knows himself knows his Lord. This is about practicing self-awareness. Please recite salawat. Tonight, in our eulogy, we commemorate a young boy whose ihsan was at such a high level, his God consciousness was at such a level that he recognized what he was facing, where he was going to go, what his destiny was and what his fate was. Qasim was the son of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. He was a 13-year-old boy. When he saw on the day of Ashura that the companions had all gone out and had given their lives for Imam al-Hussein, and after that he saw his cousin Ali al-Akbar and other youths from the family going, he came to his uncle. And he said to his uncle, "My dear uncle, please, will you permit me to fight?" His uncle looked at the young boy and said, "Qasim, you are the last remaining memory of my brother. You're all that I have left of my dear brother. How is it I can let you go?" Qasim said, "Uncle, this is true, but am I also not a part of you? Am I also not from you?" His uncle looked at him and said, "Qasim, what do you think of martyrdom?" Qasim says, "I see martyrdom as sweeter than honey." Sweeter than honey. All the books of Maqatil and eulogies record this, that he said, "I see death as sweeter than honey." In that moment, Imam al-Hussein granted permission for Qasim to go. It is reported in some of the sources that he wore the shirt of his father under his armor, and that his sandals were too big for him. Nevertheless, this young boy went out into the battlefield. When he went out into the battlefield, the enemies mocked him and said, "Hussein, you have sent a child. You've sent a child to us." Qasim fought gallantly and bravely until he was struck and fell to the ground. When he fell to the ground, he called to his uncle, "Ya Amma, please come and save me." Imam al-Hussein rushed out from the camps and went to the battlefield. And when he found the body of his nephew, he says to Qasim, "Qasim, it is difficult for your uncle to see you in this state. It is indeed difficult to see you in this state." He gathers the body of Qasim and takes him back to the camp. Ala la'natullahi ala al-qawm al-zalimin. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.